you know why most suckers lose money when it comes to penny stocks or just stocks in general? Now, the odds are, if you're watching this, there's a 90% chance that you, my friends, are a sucker. That's right, I am talking about you. This is not meant to be an insult in any way, but the odds are that you're a mooch bum. Okay, now let me tell you a little story. Back when I was a wee lad, getting started on Wall Street, I met a guy who was actually a carnival barker on Coney Island back in probably in the 30s and 40s, and his big expression was, "You gotta fleece the mooches. You gotta fleece the mooches." What was it all about? Well, basically, this guy was a carnival barker, getting suckers to make bets on those, whatever carnival games that they have in Coney Island, that type of nonsense. And his whole philosophy was that these people are suckers anyway, so you got to fleece them. So this is how you are getting fleeced. Now, what am I talking about when it comes to stocks? Okay, here's the big mistake that most of you are making, and it's this, right? Let me give you a little bit of a metaphor. Okay, first of all, you're paying too much for stocks. You are buying stocks at high valuations where you basically have a loss locked in. Okay, the odds are stacked against you. You're going to lose money. What am I talking about? Okay, another story. Just a couple months ago, I was talking to another guy who is he's like I don't know, he thinks he's a big horse racing bettor, and I think he bet on it wasn't the Kentucky Derby, but it was a race going into the Kentucky Derby, and he bet on the favorite. And he told me that he actually he bet, and I said, "Oh, how'd you do?" He said, "Well, I bet on the favorite. The horse won. He still lost money." This is the craziest thing I ever heard of. But here's the nutty thing, right? When it comes to horse racing, it's like a pari-mutuel thing, right? So if something is very, very heavily favored, all of a sudden the odds are, if the horse even wins, you might only get paid 1-to-1, right? You only might get paid 1-to-1. And if it's super heavily favored, you might actually lose money. And that's what happened to this guy. So here's what's happening with penny stocks, right? The problem is when it comes to these penny stocks, let me repeat this very, very carefully. I just want to you got to let this sink to your head, because I know some of you are not very smart, but you got to let this sink into your head. These things are venture capital. It's public venture capital, okay? If a company is not making money, okay, listen to me very, very carefully. If a company is not making money, it's really not worth anything. It's not worth anything if they're not making any money. The value of the stock is, it's got some speculative value in terms of, it's got some optionality, it's got whatever. So, potentially it could be worth, 25, 50 million, okay? Maximum 50 million is what I would give a company as a valuation, purely as a spec play, right? As something which is, something you want to value as a speculation, right? Where maybe, it's got a real outside chance. Okay, 50 million maximum, really not more than 25 million, right? Now here's the thing. There's a bunch of these, there's a couple stocks right now trading in the market at valuations of, let's call it, $75 to $250 million right now. 75 to 250. By the way, I'm doing this video in May of 2023. We're just coming out. We're probably at the bottom of a major bear market. We might be coming out of the bear market, but the reality is that the market, the pricing has been reset. Things have been repriced. Okay, so it's not 2020 anymore. We're not paying crazy multiples. So you got to get into these things at the right price. Now, if you buy a stock at a 200 million valuation, all the upside has already been priced in. So basically, you're locked into a loss. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's specifically some couple companies that claim to be their AI companies. They're not AI companies. They're, listen, the only AI companies that are real is maybe Microsoft, Google, etc. Everybody else right now in the public market it's mostly hype. So is hype worth something? Absolutely, hype is worth something. But is it worth 200 million? Absolutely not. Here's why. Because now again, I'm talking about these companies, they're losing money, right? They're losing, each of these companies are losing 20 million, 10 million, 30 million, whatever the numbers don't even matter, right? These companies are losing massive amounts of money. They have minimal revenues, right? So there's really no value. There's really no enterprise value. In other words, if there was a fire sale, right, if the company had to be liquidated, you know what the bids would come in at for these companies? Let me be very frank with you. The bids would come in at basically zero. That's right. These companies are absolutely worthless. Now, as a public company, they're worth a little bit of money because that speculative value, the optionality, the whole optionality thing, right? It's a public company story. But as a private company, they would get absolutely zero dollars. So if you buy these things, you're basically getting into a loss. Now, my philosophy, again, if you read my book, 10-Bagger Blueprint, 10baggerblueprint.com or 10-Bagger Blueprint on Amazon, is my whole philosophy is I want to buy stocks with a built-in profit, right? So I'm buying stocks which are trading at a deep discount to their peer group valuation. They're trading at, market caps. Let's say the peer group is trading at, 400 million. These stocks are trading at 100 million or so. What that means is this. What that means is at some point that valuation gap is going to close. What's going to make it close? A couple things. One is maybe more eyes on the stock. Maybe number two is some catalysts, etc., milestones. Okay. But the news flow at some point should close, so that gives you basically a built-in profit potential. So if you're buying I have a company I'm working with now. I'm not going to mention any names, but they're trading at a valuation of just $10 million, less than $10 million. So if you're buying this stock, you're basically getting this thing at a discount of, let's call it 90% discount. You're getting this thing 90% discount, and essentially that's what I call a built-in profit. Now, is the profit guaranteed? No, of course not. But nothing in life is guaranteed, right? It's just you got to go with the odds. It's just like the horse racing story, right? You want things where the odds are in your favor and they're not against you. And again, one of the things that I'm looking for really is those situations where something is going to pay out 100 to 1, right? It's 100 to 1. The market's selling it as a 100 to 1 story. But the reality is, the real numbers are probably closer to 10 to 1. Okay, those are the types of companies that we bring on as Wall Street reporters, next super stocks, and that type of thing. Again, you got to read my book, 10-Bagger Blueprint, to really understand this. I can't go into all the details. I'm not the most articulate, verbally. I'm actually a better writer than I am at speaking. So you got to get the book. It's only $19.95. If you don't get the book, you're a total idiot. And you're probably going to lose all your money. And not only that, you deserve to lose all your money because you didn't do the basic thing that you have to do. Just give yourself a little bit of an edge. Why don't investors want to give themselves an edge? Well, because I don't know why. I don't know what the answer is. Look, all I know is they call me the $1 trillion man. I've helped create over $1 trillion in wealth for investors over the last 25 years. Helping companies, increase shareholder value. I've had so many 10-baggers, too many doubles, triples, 5-baggers to count, a couple hundred baggers. I think about at least 3, possibly 5. We know 3 that are documented. Again, I wasn't keeping track in the early years, but we've had a couple of big, huge winners. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Leave your comments in this video below, and make sure you get the book, 10baggerblueprint.com. 10-Bagger Blueprint on Amazon. Here's to your 100x, my friends.